Phil and I work with Tech Systems. Some of you guys probably seen us here in the past as well too, but we're the largest IT staffing and solutions firm in the nation. I actually sit out of our Bellevue office here to kind of support opportunities in the greater Seattle area. I'm more specifically focused in the software development test space, but we do also work with opportunities in project management, network, and user support as well too. So definitely wanted to kind of talk through if you guys are interested in looking at new opportunities or just hearing about what's going on in the market, since we do work with about 100 plus different companies in the area, both at mid and enterprise level. It's a great opportunity to kind of understand a little bit more what's going on out there. Technology is being requested from companies. But if any of you guys just out here are kind of hiring as well, it's a great opportunity for us to partner to see how we might be able to help support you guys in terms of new opportunities and bringing new people on the team as well too. So definitely feel free to make sure my business cards are here as well. If there's anything I can help with, please feel free to reach out. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Phil. Are you going to be here till the end, or are you going to be taking off?
Not tonight, unfortunately, so I'm going to leave my business cards here, but I will be at the following events as well.
So if you want to catch up to him at the beginning, or just grab a card and follow up with him. That'd be awesome. Okay, and we also want to thank Microsoft. Without them, we couldn't use this room and this facility, which is one of the hardest things for us to find, is something with a great screen like this, nice big space, etc. So we certainly say thank you to them. We've also got some other sponsors. Do you have any giveaways or anything tonight, Mark? Or?
There's a couple of little things back here, but the big thing is we have a raffle tonight for VS Live. It's going to be here in Redmond next month. We have one free event pass for that. We're going to raffle off tonight. So if you're interested in that, keep back here.
So if you're interested in VS Live, sign up on the sheet at the back. We'll raffle at the end. I think there's also a giveaway code for $600 off if you want to attend the Redmond event. Is that correct? Yeah. And did you post that to the meetup group, if I remember right?
Yeah, send an email right before the meeting.
Okay. So if you check in your email, if you're attending, you should be able to get that code if you want to attend VS Live here in Redmond. I think it's over in the conference center here on campus, if I remember right. You have some really interesting fonts, Jeremy. I noticed that it's totally different. Typically, we kick things off asking folks if they know about community events that are coming up, that folks should know about, things that they should attend. Anybody know anything coming? I'll mention two in a second, or one in a second. Nothing. Well, I'll mention one and then we'll come back to this. We have Seattle Code Camp coming up on September 9th. We're looking for two things right now, really. We're looking for speakers and we're looking for sponsors. We're trying to put together the schedule as it sits. We've been doing this, I think, for about 16 years, if I remember right. I always get that a little bit off, one or two, but it's been a number of years. Last year we ran 72 sessions, all on a Saturday, completely free. We need speakers that can actually put those sessions on. And this is a great opportunity if you have something that you're really interested and passionate about to come out and speak to the community about it. It's relatively low pressure. It's a free event. It's other folks that are just interested in the similar types of things you are. So I'd certainly encourage you to go ahead and check it out. We have information about how you can submit sessions just up on the URL there, seattle.codecamp.us. Head on up there. We're using a system called Sessionize this year to kind of gather them up. I don't know how many we have submitted at this point in time, but what we found is we typically are able to take at least one session from everybody that submits one. We always have the guy that submits 9. We'll give him usually 1, and if we're a little slim, maybe he gets 2. But we try and make it as inclusive as possible and make it available to everybody that wants to get out here and try something and speak. And the topics are wide and varied. It's not .NET. We've had guys come and talk about kids programming with Scratch. We've had folks come and talk about doing Arduino programming, for example. We have folks talk about all kinds of technologies, mobile, you name it. So it's whatever you think you have something interesting to share with the community. We encourage you to step up and come and do that. Secondarily, we're looking for sponsors for the event. We had about 720 people register last year. Of that, we had about 425 people through the door. As you can imagine, feeding that number of people, etc., and doing all the logistics costs us a few dollars. It costs about $10,000 to put the event on. We do that all via sponsorship dollars because we want to try and keep the event free. So we're looking for companies in the community who are willing to support something like that. We give you some things in return for your sponsorship, obviously some recognition in the emails and signage and any number of other things. There's information about all those sponsorship opportunities up on the same site, seattle.codecamp.us. Right now we've raised about $3,200, if I remember right, towards that $10,000, and we're about 2 months out. So as you can imagine, we're starting to get a little nervous and trying to find those sponsors. So if you know anybody, I'd be quite happy to talk to them, etc., or you can point them at the site and give them some information about those sponsorship opportunities. I'll go back here. Anybody here tonight looking for a gig? Looking for a job? Yes, sir.
So my name's Eric Isaacs. I haven't been here for a little while, but I was involved with the .NET Developers Association back in 2003, believe it or not.
Wow.
That was when the name changed from the Visual Basic Developers Association to the .NET Developers Association. The group has been around for about 19 years now, and so I'm encouraged to see that it's still carrying on. It's great. But I do SQL Server primarily now, so I'm just looking forward. I also manage software development groups too. So
Cool. Talk to Eric if you have an opportunity potentially. Anybody else looking for a job or potentially looking to hire folks? Are you looking to hire folks? Wow, this is unusually we only have one. Usually there's about 4 or 5. Okay, I'll keep going then. I'll say that I'm always looking for speakers. Right now we're booked through October. We're going to skip the month of September because it's the day after Code Camp. And I think if you want content, you should come to Code Camp and spend a day doing it as opposed to an hour on Monday night. But I've already got August booked. I think it's up on the next slide here. And I'm starting to book for October, which will be our next session. So typically what I tell folks is I'm looking for one of 2 things. I'm either looking for a topic, and you don't know the speaker that can come and talk to us about it. Great. Email me at chris@kinsman.net, and I'll try and go and track down somebody who can speak to that topic. I've got a couple of those that I'm always working at all times, looking for perhaps someone from the community or someone from the product team, etc. So topic, great, email me. Even better, if you just know somebody that's a great speaker and you've seen speak somewhere, who might even also have an associated topic, even better. You know, drop me their email address, their name. I don't need their email address. I'll find them somehow in social media somewhere, and I'll track them down and see if we can't get them out here to speak. So I always love it when folks drop me hints like that. That's where I get some of the content. It helps me understand what you guys are looking for and what I should schedule for you folks. We've been doing some get-togethers. You want to talk about this real quick, Lauren?
Sure, I'm Lauren. I coordinate the after meetup social. It's always worth it, so I encourage anyone that's considering to go ahead and join us. So it's at the Commons, so which is right over there. Huge parking garage here off of 40th Street. If you're not familiar with the area, could I get a quick show of hands? How many people might be interested in joining after? All right, so couple. All right, see, yeah, okay, cool. Is anyone interested in going that doesn't know how to get there? Okay, cool. All right, so I'll meet you there afterward. It's always fun. So
you guys just hang out and talk. It's a bar.
Yeah, sure.
You can get drinks, a little food, whatever, right?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Excellent. Next meeting is going to be August 7th. It's titled, Are You Ready to Jump on the AI Wave? It's a guy that's coming in from some of the Azure machine learning services and cognitive services type team. So he's going to talk about some of those services on Azure. And tonight, we have Jeremy Foster to talk about reactive extensions. Thank you, Jeremy. I'll put your little remote up here.
All right, is my microphone on?
Yep.
All right. All right, well, hi everybody, how are you doing? I have been doing this for about 5 years, developer evangelism. Have you guys heard of that? You know, it's pretty popular now in technology as a whole, not just at Microsoft. We at Microsoft, because we're big, every part of us is big, our evangelism group is big, and so there's the equivalent of me all over the US, we've got tens of us, and then there's the equivalent of me in other countries as well. So we've got evangelists around the world. And our whole job is to go talk to crowds and let them know how to use our stuff, why to use our stuff, show them the coolness of it in use, and just basically just brag about all the cool stuff that Microsoft is making. So that's my role, and my favorite part about it is the people. I think the people is the best part of absolutely any endeavor anyway. And so I'm always really glad. I am glad for all of the hours like preparing presentations and studying frameworks and things like that. But I'm always really glad when I'm right here with you guys, when we're all in the same room, we all have something in common. A lot of things that we don't have in common. There's something that probably all of us in this room have in common, which is we really like writing software. And I think that's really neat because there's some fun camaraderie in that whole, I would call it a process, but it's, a lot of times it's more like a lifestyle. So I think that's really neat. I think you should all be encouraged in your field, in your career, in your endeavors. Hopefully they're fruitful and they're paying back, and hopefully you continue to have fun with that going forward. I always say the only thing I like more than writing code is talking about writing code. So that's why I'm with you here today. You can find me online afterwards at codefoster.com or on Twitter at codefoster. I'm not real verbose on Twitter. I tend to just put up there the really cool stuff. If I see something in the news that's really cool, or if there's an event that's happening that I think that everybody needs to hear about, I'll put it on there, so don't worry about Twitter spam. And by far, the most popular question after any presentation is, are you going to send those slides out? Don't have to, because you can just download them on codefoster.com/deck/netda-rx. That'll take you to a OneDrive link and to all of these slides. So these slides, sometimes the slides are just a little bit guiding and they may or may not be helpful. These ones I think will be helpful because there's a lot of content in these slides. There's kind of a lot of build slides, a lot of concept, and so really if a person missed this presentation and went and stepped through the slides, I think they'd still get something out of it. So there's that. But what I'm going to be talking about tonight is something called reactive extensions. I'd like to get a show of hands. Who knows already what reactive extensions is? Very few. Who has already used it on a project? All right, just a couple. Great. So this is going to be a lot of new content. Well, I think this is going to work well because I'm going to start back with really base concepts. And I'm going to show you not just like how to use reactive extensions, I'm going to show you what problem reactive extensions actually solves. Why in the world you would want to use reactive extensions. And so I'm going to start back with the concept of imperative programming. Okay, imperative programming is telling your computer what to do step by step. It's every line of code, right? First I want to declare a variable, and then I want to instantiate it to this value, and then I want to do another one, and then another one, and then I call a function. And notice that my syntax here is somewhat unique. Maybe you haven't seen this syntax before. I kind of stole this from Reactive Extensions documentation where they have marble diagrams. And these marble diagrams are, for some reason, they're kind of unique to Reactive Extensions, and I really love the way they help you to understand what the various Reactive Extensions operators do. And so I kind of extended that, and I'm depicting time here with these little marbles as the actual objects or values that are moving through your program, and you're bringing those to life by declaring and instantiating those. And then notice that I call out to a function here, and I pass it a couple of things. We all know how functions work. Maybe this is a sum function, and I give it a couple of things. They might be numbers, they might be primitive types, or they might be our own types. And it returns something. Who knows what? Just a thing. And actually, in branching out here, I'm not going to a different thread. This is really just passing control. And so this is a diagram format that I'm going to use in the next number of slides. So hopefully we all understand what's going on with that, and I'm going to point out some issues with it. Now, this is imperative programming, and a lot of us have seen imperative programming, maybe compared against declarative programming, and maybe you've thought for 10 seconds about what that might mean and then said, oh, whatever, I get the concept, I don't need to understand the words. But I'm sorry, we're going to have a strict grammar lesson, and we're going to learn what imperative programming is. So, first of all, we're going to study some grammatical moods. The first one, the declarative mood. I'm going to make a declarative statement by saying, I really like a beer. Now, there's no obligation on your part, unless maybe I'm passive-aggressive. There's no obligation. I'm just stating this as a fact. I'm in a state where I would like a beer, and now everybody who I declared that to knows it. That is the declarative mood. If I put a question mark on that and I say, would someone please get me a beer? Well, now all of a sudden I've changed the mood of the sentence. I'm not just stating it, declaring it for the masses. I'm now asking, in this case the masses, for something to happen. But then if we move on from the interrogative mood, did I call that imperative? I meant interrogative. If we move on from the interrogative mood to the imperative mood, now I'm saying, get me a beer. It's more like a command, and it's more often directed to an individual. And in this case, in the case of the topic today, we're talking to our computer. Imperatively, we own these things, we made these things, we don't have to ask them to do things, we tell them to do things, right? So we tell the computer, and it says no because there's an error or whatever, and we've got to figure that out. So we can use the exclamatory imperative mood. Give me a beer. Okay, now it's a little bit more powerful, and then if that still doesn't work, then sudo give me a beer works every time. Sorry, the computer can't even argue against that one. But we've got these different moods, and we use these in our programming styles. And we've probably seen this before, but I'll give you an example from the web stack world of declarative versus imperative. Declarative being, there's an HTML tag, and I'm just kind of stating, here's the way I'd like things to be. I'm not stepping it through what to do, I'm just declaring the state of things. That's the declarative mood. Hopefully you've guessed that this is all backstory for something that's to come. Here's the imperative mood. The imperative mood says, if this, and then this, and now I'm done, okay? So I'm stepping through a process, saying at each step what I want to happen. I like it. I like my code. I like my imperative code because I have control as the programmer. It's good, right? Well, it is, but there's some problems with it. Probably all of us have run into some of the problems that come with imperative code. Okay, so back to our diagram here, the life of an imperative program. We've got a couple problems here. Specifically, we have two problems. One of them is synchrony, and we've been fighting this for a really long time. Before we fought synchrony, we just didn't even use synchrony. We just accepted our fate of synchrony, and we didn't even try to do asynchronous programming. Now it's like asynchronous is a must. Asynchronous is the default in most object models, in most frameworks, and so we have to have asynchronous programming, and yet in every language it's implemented at least 2 or 3 different ways. Who remembers the C# days of every single method had a begins and an ends version? 2 different versions of the method. Here's what happens when it begins, and here's what happens when the method ends. Boy, from the very beginning that was a code smell for me. Every single function has 2 versions of it. I don't think this is going to last. But it's the best we had. It's the best we had. And if you go over to the JavaScript world, oh man, how many of you C# developers see every once in a while how JavaScript people do it? You go, man, I'm glad I write C#. Right? Right? It's tough. What we really want here is we want to capture back, we want to reclaim this space. Because we're passing control to another function and saying, the control is yours, you've got my instruction pointer, and I'm going to wait for you. And I'm kind of on my knees, like, please come back. If you've got to go talk to a database or a network, I'm kind of hosed because I'm back here just waiting for you, and I have no idea when you're going to come back. And we want to reclaim this, okay? So hopefully we all understand the difference between the concept of concurrency versus the concept of asynchrony. And in this case, we're talking about asynchrony. We're talking about sending somebody off to do something and then using our time wisely, using our time while they're doing it. So that's one of the problems that we face here. Another one of the problems is just in imperative code itself, there's a real problem with the fact that I have to write imperative code step by step. I have to hold the hand of my program. I like to say that my program can't really scale beyond me or my development team. Your program will never be any cooler than you're able to program it to be. And we really want to find ways to escape velocity. We want to get out of having to tell our computer imperatively, step by step, what to do. You guys remember a long time ago when we were doing speech recognition and handwriting recognition, there were people with more degrees than Fahrenheit that were trying to figure out really intelligent algorithms to determine how to recognize the letter T. And I imagine that those algorithms went something like, let's look for a good amount of black ink near the top in kind of a horizontal fashion, and then maybe in the somewhat of the center of the character in kind of a vertical fashion. That's going to look like a T. Let's call that a T. That's imperative. I'm holding the hand of this algorithm. I'm walking through it step by step, and that algorithm is not ever going to be any cooler than I just developed it for. It's not ever going to be any more interesting than that. That's a problem, in my opinion, and it's a problem that, as you may know, machine learning has solved. We now no longer tell a computer how to recognize the letter T by telling it, step by step, how to recognize the letter T. Instead, what do? We give it a whole bunch of examples of a letter T, and we let it figure out how to do it. And how does the algorithm work? We have no idea. I mean, we know how our machine learning algorithm works, and we know what samples we gave it, but the result, we don't really know. We don't really care. It comes out 98% of the time with the right answer, so we call it good. Okay? We've escaped velocity. We've let the computer do something more interesting than what we actually put into it. Okay? So that's kind of like what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a framework or a platform. I'm looking at something that's going to allow me to do some really elegant coding. So these are two problems that I really want to try to solve or see how reactive extensions can solve it. Now we're going to camp on this quadrant diagram a little bit too. There are two spectrums here. There is the scalar and the vector, so the single and the many, and then there's the synchronous and the asynchronous. And we currently have a really good solution to three of those quadrants. If you just want a synchronous scalar type, that's just a type. It's a string, it's a number, it's whatever. Now when you want multiple types, well, there's an answer for that as well. It's an array, or it's an IEnumerable, or it's whatever kind of multiple type that you're working with in your native language. When you want asynchronous, we've got that for scalar. In C#, we've got task of type T. In JavaScript, we've got a promise. So we've got these solutions for asynchronous scalar. But what goes here? What goes there, up in the top right quadrant? And you probably know that the answer is reactive extensions, but I'm going to ask you to suspend the fact that you know that, because I used to be a high school teacher, and I know we're supposed to build up to the answer. So I'm going to build up to it. You're going to, at the end, you're going to go, oh, like that. Okay, it's going to be like, wow, the big reveal. Okay, so here is our scalar synchronous type being returned from a function, right? We call a function pass control